And to Kenya, where President William Ruto has made a dramatic U-turn and withdrawn a new finance bill that sparked violent demonstrations. On Tuesday, thousands of protesters broke into the country's parliament in Nairobi. But even though the bill has now been halted, there are still calls for the president to resign.
After days of clashes in several Kenyan cities, the capital Nairobi was calm again on Wednesday. And people assessed the damage. The protests against President Ruto's tax reform plans claimed a number of lives. But in a surprise twist, the president bowed to the increasing pressure.
I concede, and therefore I will not sign the 2024 finance bill, and it shall subsequently be withdrawn, and I have agreed with these members that that becomes our collective position.
It's a victory for the protesters against the president's unpopular plan.
The spark this time was the finance bill that purported to increase taxes or strange type of taxes in order to raise money for an exorbitant budget that was making no sense. And to make matters worse, the government was not able to explain why it contradicts itself.
Ruto came to power just 2 years ago. He promised to make the country's tax system fairer by making the wealthiest pay more. His latest attempt to reform the tax system failed to convince the public and also some experts. Following the protests, the austerity measures are now being reconsidered. The president says he will start cutting budgets, starting with his own office, as well as other government departments.
Let's get more from our correspondent, Sella Oneko in Nairobi. Welcome, Sella. This legislation made it through 3 rounds of parliamentary scrutiny. So why did the president suddenly withdraw it like this?
Yes, it came as quite a surprise that the president withdrew the bill yesterday. And I mean, what he said was that that he basically had listened to the voice of the people, and so that was the reason why he was making this move. But also, I think that many people didn't expect people to come out in such large numbers on Tuesday during Tuesday's protests, because people really protested all over the country, in all small towns in around the country. And so there was massive support for, or massive protests against this bill, and also basically the backlash with which government forces reacted. So with the tear gas, with the number of people killed, there was also a lot of criticism after the protests from both international community, so from the UN Secretary General, from ambassadors here in Kenya, and also from parts of society like the churches, who had previously been more silent on this issue.
Well, the official death count following these protests is 23, though the numbers are suspected to be much higher, and many more, of course, have been injured. So how are people coping with the loss of their loved ones?
Yes, well, we went around yesterday going to one of the city's main mortuaries. We also went to one of the hospitals. And basically what we saw there is that people are going from hospital to the different mortuaries around Nairobi, where most of the deaths occurred, and looking for their relatives. So at the point yesterday, there were still several people missing. And we also saw human rights groups on the ground there who were trying to help people look for their relatives, also to get their proper documentation, post-mortems and so on, to confirm what had really happened. But we have a clip from a family of somebody who died, Erickson Chalo, a 25-year-old protester, so let's watch that.
He was a sweet person, and we've lost a hero. He was the most social member of our family and was very popular among his friends.
What we need is justice for Erickson.
This was not a normal death. It was basically an assassination. He was killed like a thief, even though he wasn't one. What we want is justice. We're seeking justice for him.
So, Sella, the president has now withdrawn this bill. Are protesters likely to go home?
It doesn't look like it. Protests are supposed to be happening today. We've seen in some small towns people are already on their way out. We've seen that security forces are trying to secure the areas around Parliament and State House because there is supposed to be a march to State House. And people are generally, I mean, they reacted to President Ruto's announcement saying that it came too late because of the excessive force that was used. And many people also saying they don't really trust the president. They don't trust what he's going to do. They don't trust the government. So they really want to kind of bring that point out. And they also want to mourn the people who lost their lives on Tuesday.
Okay, thanks for that, Sella. DW correspondent Sella Oneko in Nairobi.